Hey everybody, I'm your host Elysia Buss and welcome to E Squared Empowerment with Elysia. Tonight I have the great pleasure of getting to connect with my dear friend Kyle Carthens for day 21 of Black History Month. Kyle is an Emmy Award winning actor and he is located in Cleveland, Ohio, although he tours around for all the cool different productions he gets to be in, because in his 15-year career, he has actually been in 75 different productions, from TV to film to theaters. It's just like so much cool stuff that he's done, that he has actually even been inducted into the Hall of Fame for acting in the oldest African American theater in the United States, the Karamu Theater House. So Karamu House, my apologies. But that's just so cool. So Kyle, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
I'm really excited because we get to not only talk about acting and Black History Month and the Black culture, but we also get to talk about sex and polyamory and tantra and all that cool stuff. So let's just dive right into it. So in the beginning, Kyle, so what really started you on your journey into film and acting? Like, you just like woke up one day and you're like, that looks cool, let's do that.
Well, I would say I was always sort of the product of funny parents. You know, my mom is more of a situational comedic type of person, and my dad is sort of like an observant type of comedy person. So, you know, the blend of those two kind of kept humor in my life, and they would always, you know, watch a lot of Def Comedy Jam, Saturday Night Live, and Live in Color, you know, and just, you know, watching Eddie Murphy films, you know, Red Fox, like all these prominent comedians, and watching just the joy that it brought in our household, just being a kid and watching my family just have good times gathering around this film. I'm like, I would love to be a part of a legacy of something like that just kept those good vibes rolling. So went to the Cleveland School of the Arts prematurely as a way to just be like, hey, I'm going to be a comedian and try and make people laugh one day. And just ended up falling in love with the entire process of really what it takes to be an ensemble. And you see those films of how many names are actually on the end credits, of how many people that comes together to get these art projects done. You know, I fell in love with that entire process, and I would say that's what got me into the arts.
That's so cool. I love that your family's funny. So does your mom or your dad tell the better dad jokes?
My dad tells the funniest jokes. Yeah.
Dad jokes are my favorite. Like, it's just like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, my dad is like a blend of Sinbad and Bernie Mac.
Nice. That's amazing. I hope you have him on a show someday so we can hear his amazing dad jokes.
Well, he actually passed in December. Yeah,
I'm so sorry,
it's okay. Yeah, so he's no longer with us, but his jokes are, you know, and I feel
jokes
like, you
will
know,
live on.
Yeah, his spirit is still with us, and we got tons of laughs that we've shared.
I'm glad that you got to have a lot of good time together.
Yeah.
And during this time in history too, like with iPhones and computers and everything else, like I'm sure you probably have some recordings of that you get to carry forward.
Yeah. We got recordings, and we got like family videos and pictures and things like that. So yeah, technology is great in terms of like archiving those special moments.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you had talked to me earlier about like really wanting to dive into experiencing more of your history and like Black culture and all of that, and like leaving that legacy. So tell us a little bit more about like what that encompasses for you and how you're wanting to drive that forward.
Yeah, like so I'm 30 now. And in terms of using my art not only to push forward the culture for African American content creators, being a voice for the voiceless, because public speaking is something that a lot of people are afraid of, but I enjoy talking in front of crowds. I'm a people person, so in a way to pay homage to my lineage of where I come from, if there is a story that was told that was never finished that I could use my art to either bring light to or continue in that story that my ancestors may have not been able to do, I think that is probably why I'm getting all of these existential questions about um, my family and my family tree. So I know more on my mother's side, but I'm starting to learn now more about my father's side of the family and blending those two together to find some art that I feel could really be not only special for my family, but for other people's families as well. And just how, you know, we were kings and queens, but for some reason, everybody just always focuses on slavery. And I think that is because, there was just a lot of our stories that were lost in the fire, a lot of libraries that were burned down, a lot of truths that were just washed away, like Greenwood and Oklahoma City, the Seneca Village that was drowned out in Central Park, New York. There was an entire African American village that lived there that was just flooded, and all of these, stories just sort of get lost over time, and they weren't really taught to me when I was in the school district. So now that I'm older and I'm able to read all these collegiate books and learn about all of this hidden history that was sort of kept from me, I'm just like, I would love to use my platform to bring some of these stories to light.
That's so cool in regards to like bringing more of the stories to light. Like, I love that. There's so much out there that we lose, culturally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art of storytelling. That's one of the things that I loved about the ancient times, is the people that wandered around and like that was their journey. It was to memorize stories and pass them. The orators. That's what they're called, the orators. And like the Iliad and the Odyssey, like those are giant books, but those books were memorized by people and disseminated to the public in these giant spaces. Like we watch stand-up comics, people would go to these places and like listen to these people. And it's amazing to think about being able to memorize that much content and be able to articulate in a way that was so vivid for people to be able to have those pictures within their minds.
Like griots, storytellers, a lot of that stuff originates, in Ghana and West Africa, and I
The
feel
story of the griot,
yeah, and memorizing all of these family traditions and dances and just like even the way that our hair is like it's all connected, the way that our food tastes, like all of these stories are a part of our culture. We think of how many stories you see on a daily basis, like newspaper, magazines, your phone, TV, social media. So I just prefer human to human conversations, or just, theater or film, so like, where is our Globe Theater, like how Shakespeare can, have the Globe Theater still be a European standard to this day. Where is our version of that in terms of Black and brown people just having a space where we can tell our stories and our stories can exist, and it's not a negative thing, like this whole critical race theory that is going on right now that seems to be causing an issue for people just wanting to have a space to tell stories that we have documented that are pretty true. It's just learning the full history of the country that we come from, and people who look like me who just want to exist, and keep their stories and traditions alive. So I feel so passionate about it and obligated to just keep trying.
Yeah, no, I do. There's two different things that come to mind when you're telling me your story. And one is, so I have a master's degree in education and a Waldorf teaching certificate. And in the Waldorf schools in 7th grade, they focus on the history and culture of Africa. And they bring in those stories of which you speak, and they bring in drums, and they bring in food, and they bring the whole thing together for people to experience it in a holistic way, like we do the drawings and everything else, for awareness. And that's what's so beautiful about the Waldorf education, is that they focus on different cultures and the different grades, is the kids get older and come all together. And then the second piece is that I resonate deeply with what it is that you're talking about, because when I was younger, like little, one of the things that I wanted to do was be a photographer and journalist for National Geographic. And I wanted to travel around the world and capture stories like what it is that you're talking about, and bring them out into like public, so we could just have it and people can learn from each other. And so,
That is so cool. I didn't know you wanted to be a photographer.
yeah, I actually took photography classes every year from 6th grade into 3 years into college. And I had my own darkroom and different stuff. And my former boss's husband gifted me his dad's camera when I painted their house, because I was helping with the closet, and I was like, oh, like this is amazing. And he's like, yeah, I never use it. It's my dad's. He was a journalist in World War II. And so just imagining what this camera had been through. And then my house was robbed when I was 20, and they stole all of my camera equipment. And then I never bought a nice camera again, unfortunately.
Well, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
So sweet of you. Yeah, it's such a different world, like going from the analog to the digital. But that was definitely like one of my greatest passions in life for a long time, was photography, and to just be able to capture these really beautiful images. I remember one time I sat on the lawn at a park in Seattle, downtown Seattle, by Pike Place Market for the longest time, and there's this little kid just toddling around, and I was waiting for the pigeons, because the pigeons were all around him, and so I was waiting for just the right moment, and then he went after one, and they all flew. And so I have this really cool picture of this kid who basically looks like he's a little baby angel, because one of the pigeons' wings are just like perfectly angled. So, and they're like, all the other wings are round. It's like cool shading, and it's a super cool shot. But it was in black and white, which was great. And yeah, that one was probably my favorite.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. You know, photography is a great way to not only express what might be happening in that moment, but this nostalgia, being able to look back at memories, but then also bringing to light different cultures and things like that. And I love the fact that you want to use that camera to not just take pictures of food, but to like travel around the world and educate with your art.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it would be nice to get back into photography at some point. I thought it was funny to go from that, and then now it being more about film for me, like traveling around and doing the interviews and doing the film work with horses and everything else, and trying to empower people that way. And I was just like, well, it's not quite the same, but it's still kind of in the same vein. Like, it's interesting how things come full circle through life.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we're passionate with, that like they truly stick with us.
Indeed.
Yeah, and then with acting, when did you really find yourself transitioning from like, this is fun and a passion, to wow, like I'm actually going to dedicate this as a career and have that be functional?
That was 10th grade. We had this thing called the New Play Film and Poetry Works Festival, long title. And where it allowed seniors and juniors at the Cleveland School of the Arts to write their own material, cast from any majors. They didn't have to just be specific theater majors. You can have people in band or dance, be a part of the shows. And I would say that 10th grade year was pretty memorable, because I got cast in a comedy and a drama, and most people just knew me for comedy and being a smiley, dimple-faced type of kid. So,
Jokester.
yeah, so when I was able to tap into some of the cathartic trauma that I had kind of experienced in my childhood, and was able to, show like a little bit of a window into that side of myself, the response and the reaction was pretty memorable. Standing ovation, and just the feedback that I received afterwards, and people in tears telling me how my performance affected them. I was like, okay, I can actually, use this for good, and that's probably when I decided to take it seriously as a career.
That's so cool. What was it like the first time you got a role that you actually got paid for?
It was so rewarding. I would say probably the best feeling. I did not know that commercials paid more than movies. You know what I'm saying? Like more than film and television, more anything. So like you get, residuals in the mail. So I remember I did this McDonald's commercial where I had to pretend like I won a Cessna jet or something like that. So I'm pulling like this little thing off of a cup, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so excited that I won. And we got paid for the session fee. So I was just, all right, cool, I'll take these couple $100 for the day. Forgot about the gig, went on, still working at Holiday Inn, doing third shift or whatever. And just a couple of weeks later, you start getting like 3, 4, 5 different checks in the mail, like every couple of weeks. And I'm just like, this is all from the same gig. So that was extremely exciting. Financially, I could have made better decisions, but I would say as a teenager, there was a lot of free food and fun. If you were my friend at that time, if you were my friend at that time, you ate well.
I had that moment when I was younger too. I remember that.
Yeah.
I got cast one time in an AT&T commercial, not as a primary, but as a secondary. But I just remember like how funny it was. I used to dance salsa all the time in Seattle. Salsa and hip hop and techno, like freestyling, like all this fun stuff, a little bit of tango and swing, because dancing is my other passion in life. Dancing and helping people, sex, like all those different things. Not usually in that order, but sometimes. But anyway, so one of the guys that usually worked the door, he also worked in this other agency, and he was bringing people out and taking their pictures and be like, hey, do you want to be part of this thing? And I was like, yeah, sure, like why not? Like, and then it was just such an interesting experience to be like part of the filming for a commercial for AT&T. And then there was another time I auditioned, and that was a very interesting experience. There was like one of those giant casting call situations. Then like, you just have like this big, huge, like hundreds of people or whatever that come in, and because it was for some other agency. And I was trying to be brave and like stretch my edges. And I was just like running from work. I don't think I had any time to even do my makeup. And I just showed up, and I waited till almost everybody else had gone, because I actually get a little bit of stage fright.
Really?
Yes, I'm sure this is very surprising. I worked through that earlier in life. I used to, when I was getting my bachelor's in education, I was terrified to present in front of even like 3 of my peers. I would like shake really, really bad, and I would sweat profusely, and I would turn bright red, and I would stutter.
Oh.
I was one of those people, and it was so bad. It was so bad, and I was like, this is a problem, because like teaching kids is easy. Grown-ups are terrifying. Grown-ups are like way more judgmental than children. and back then I cared more. And so I started singing karaoke sober, because that's way more vulnerable to just have your own voice. And so I remember going, this is very meandering, I remember going up to the place for the first time, and I sang Black Velvet by Atlanta Miles. And I was up there, and I was like, And this guy is just drunk, like a-hole in the back. He's just like, sing, bitch. And it like jarred me out of my like fear, and I started to sing. And I was it's like the only time that I've been genuinely grateful that that guy has been a complete asshole to me. And so it was great. And then I just kept going. I just kept going and just like forcing myself on stage. I'd sing like one song and then two songs. And then eventually I actually liked singing. And I'd like, if it was a slow night, I'd be up there like 3-4 times singing to people at this dive bar in Seattle and downtown. And I remember one time I sang Desperado and actually like the house quieted. I don't know what happened. It was like some good moment, but like I do okay. I'm like medium. I'm not spectacular. I'm not terrible. I'm usually like right in the middle. I can totally kill Baby Got Back though. I can like rap that so well.
Baby Got Back?
Oh yeah.
That's your jam, that's your go-to karaoke song. I'm glad you told the full story, because I thought that you were saying that you used karaoke as a way to break the ice for public speaking. I thought that you were going to be like, hey y'all, I'm actually here to talk about this, but first, here's a song. You know? So you saying you went up to the dive bars in Seattle to sing karaoke as a way to be comfortable with public speaking?
Yes, that's what I did. And it helped a lot. I still get kind of nervous when I'm in front of groups of people, but it's not as bad. And certainly doing 150 something interviews in the last 2 years has helped significantly. But yeah, but it was so funny when I went to the giant casting call, which I'd never done before. We had to rehearse for like a commercial basically. And so I just freestyled this commercial and I just got really engaged with the crowd, and they liked me, and they I think they'd gone to like 4 cities and they called back maybe 100 people. And I was actually one of the people that they called back, which is kind of amazing. Yeah, like it was super cool. I was just like, I have no idea where this is going, but it's still really cool to like get to be called back for something. So that's my experience. And
you go, girl. You get that call back. You
I might be famous yet. Who knows?
Right. So you saying you got like residuals off of that gig?
No, I was just, but it was
just the experience is dope. Yeah,
it was just the experience. It was just like so interesting to just see the dynamics of like your primary actor and then how that person is treated versus how your secondaries are treated.
Girl, because it's a difference. I was about to say, like, man, if you an extra on a movie or something like that, they'll make you a Lunchable or maybe like a packed lunch, a little piece of fruit in a juice cup, and you got a plastic bag sitting in a tent and it's all cold. But if you got one line, they'll put you in a trailer. You got craft services. They're like, can I get you anything? You know, it is a major difference. And I would love if that was more of a unified thing. You know, we are all here. We are all using our same time and our same resources. Why can't we all be treated fairly if we are on the call sheet to get this piece of art out here? It's even like that when you're an audience member for a television show. You know, it's like they want you to stand up and they want you to cheer and they want you to applaud and stuff like that. Like, can we just sit back and enjoy the show? You know, it's so much, man. But I'm just like, hopefully that changes in the industry.
That's so interesting, because I literally did an interview today and this exact same conversation came up with a woman who produces movies, and she's an actress and she does like all these really cool things. And Jeanette Pinkston, she's amazing. I like love her to pieces. And she was just saying how like when she does her movies, she's like, everybody gets the same.
I like that.
Yeah, she's like, this is not okay how people in SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, gets like all these amazing, they get like steak, and the non-SAG people get much of it.
I'm like, what if that is somebody's first experience into their dream? You know what I'm saying? And they're treated in such a way that it discourages them to even want to audition again, or to want to be an audience member or an extra, or even like on the crew or tech. Like, you know, it's the same experience as someone who's never received a massage before going in to receive a massage. And if the practitioner isn't, you know, attentive to their needs and doesn't care for them, they probably won't rebook with that person or ever get a massage again, you know, and it just goes hand in hand with customer service and client retention. Um, Even though those are a little two separate mediums, but it's just like treat people the way you want to be treated. I feel like that is the through line through all this, you know.
Absolutely. And for anybody watching, for frame of reference, Kyle is also a licensed massage therapist. So.
Yes.
Frame of reference.
Shameful plug, shout out to the National Holistic Institute in Studio City, the #1 accredited massage therapy school in California. You know, so that's my alma mater.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then for people who don't know my background, I've also been a medical massage therapist for 20 years. So yeah.
Yeah. You want to shout out your school?
Yeah, I know, because they're not even open anymore. They closed, like, because we're so old. Like, I'm so old that like my school is just like
you're young, girl. You're young. You're young.
That's fine. I fully embrace my beautiful age of 41. I love being in my 40s. I think it's fantastic. There's so much like wisdom and maturity that gets to come with age. Like I mean, as much as I would love to have the body I had back in my 20s, which with enough work I totally could, I will take my maturity over like that whole hot mess that I was in my early 20s, like any day of the week. Yeah. For anybody out there that's stressing about getting into their 40s, you're gonna be fine. Not a big deal. It's just a number, y'all.
Like I saw a post on Instagram today that said, "We are not our age, we are our energy."
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. In that case, I'm totally 17. Most days, except for when I've been on the computer all day long, and then I may be like 65. There's so many great paths. But coming back to what we were talking about for film and everything else, you've experienced a lot, like 75 different performances is a significant amount. So within that experience, would you say you have experienced different forms of racism in that? Or like, has it been different from being in theater and plays versus being in TV and commercials and film? Or is it just kind of like blanket? Yeah, tell us. What's your experience?
Oh yeah. I would say so to give you an early experience, let me start with post-graduation. College is advertised as a necessity, you know what I'm saying? But it is priced as a luxury. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And all you do. You know what I'm saying? But like all you're really paying for is the knowledge that's in college. You know, you're paying for the books, you know. Yeah. But they want you to party your time away and they'll hit you with all these other fees. So, you know, just even trying to get into college was sort of like a racist thing in terms of just talking on the phone with certain institutions and hearing them talk about my financial situation and what my family can afford and, you know, their reasons why, you know, I was just like, I don't know if I want to spend 4 years at this institution, you know, or just like, so I went to the, you know, massage therapy school. I got accepted into a performing arts high school, but a lot of my peers weren't allowed as African Americans to really perform. I don't know if it was the African American thing or if it was the student thing, but it was just like until their 3rd year, like they were like a junior or something like that. But as an African American performer in these theater programs, you're doing shows like The Crucible, you know, where it's not really an African American lead in that show. It's like slavery in that show. So the thing that kind of bothers me about the industry is we're using these modern budgets to continually tell stories where racism was allowed, you know, like on a day-to-day basis. So the first time that I got called an N-word by somebody who didn't look like me was in the theater, you know, because it was in the script. It just happened to be in the material because these are the times of the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s, you know, but it seems, even though we have all these professional writers, that it's more challenging to tell stories about inclusivity and equality, even though we have all of these skills to write any story, and we can buy into these sci-fi stories, but it just seems more palatable for people to tell stories when you could verbally throw racial slurs, you can disrespect people and things like that. And that was a really challenging thing for me coming up in the theater and film industry, because you just had to be comfortable being called out of your name, off of the material that you were reading. So that was an early take on it. But then going into the film industry, you kind of get stereotyped. I'm 6'4", so you get stereotyped as the athlete or the boy next door or the thug. And it's literally those three categories. So me being a young performer, and I told you I won an Emmy Award for Crime Stoppers Case Files, right? So I'm so excited. I won an Emmy. This is like a huge deal at 19. So the first people I run to show my episode to is my grandparents, right? So my old grandparents are like, yo, let's watch your episode. Oh, I can't wait to see my grandson and what he does. And the episode is, where I play a guy. I've done multiple episodes of Crime Stoppers Case Files. It was just that one that won an Emmy was different. But this was a different episode where I played a criminal. So there's me being interrogated by an officer. There's me with the mug shot being printed out, and stuff like that. Me doing the four corner turns and stuff like that. And my grandparents are sitting there like watching it. And I'm just like, ooh, I don't like the way that feels. I don't like, even though this is not me, and this is me, Kyle, portraying somebody else, this fictional person. My grandparents, they only see me, Kyle, their grandson that they raised and loved and everything, being portrayed with these images around the world as a criminal, and that clicked in my mind. I was just like, I need to create my own content or material right now, or this industry is going to have me portrayed as something that I'm not. And the people who may not get a chance to meet me and my personality and have a chance to talk to me, if they only see my art and I only let these stereotypes rule who I am as a person in order to just make a quick buck, like all the good monologues are on Law and Order SVU. If you want to be a young Black actor or something like that, but you are in handcuffs, I'm just like, I need to change that narrative, so long story short, there's tons of racism out there, but those are just two instances that I wanted to share.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. Those are really important messages for people to really think through. What would your advice be to young African Americans who are coming up in the industry and coming up against those things for the first time?
My first advice would be representation, so when it comes to agencies, or you might see like a post on social media where they're just like, hey, you can audition for this, but you got to pay this first in order to audition. It's a scam. If anybody wants you to pay to audition, it's a scam. An agent represents you for free, but the only difference is they have the control whether they want to represent you or not. So you'll audition, you'll probably send in your headshot, your resume, you'll set up an interview. After y'all sign paperwork and they want to represent you, they technically work for you. So then you can bug them and call them as much as you want for, auditions and things like that. But prior to that, it's pretty much just you out here pounding the pavement, trying to get your material seen. In terms of that as well, if an agent doesn't book work for you, depending on whatever your terms of your agreement is, between 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, you can walk away from that agency and look for other representation. If you feel like somebody is really not giving you the best career that you want, you can look for somebody who you feel will give you better career options. And I start with representation because that is kind of like the main gate that people run into when it comes to this industry. You can only get 3 Taft-Hartleys, which is pretty much like, hey, we're going to pay you this amount of money to do this movie or show, and you don't have to, like, you can keep it all. You can keep all the money that we're going to pay you only 3 times. After these 3 times, then you have to join the union. You have to join the Screen Actors Guild. Or if it's for theater, you have to become an equity actor. But those dues are like $2,000 or something like that up front. Like, you can do a payment plan, or you can pay a lump sum, but you only get 3 passes before you have to join a union. And
what happens if you don't pay? What if you don't join?
If you don't join the union, then it's sort of marginalizes your scope of how you can be seen. But there's social media now. Social media is pretty much like free worldwide distribution, and you can go directly to your audience and find your own supply and demand, basically. You know, if you ask your audience what type of content they want to see, you create the content that they want to see and they invest in it. There's no middleman, and you can really sort of spoon your audience whatever content they want. Just create a website for free and make that, you know. So yeah, those are my 2 pieces of advice. Social media, build your own brand, copyright your material, you know, in terms of ideas. I would say, yeah, copyright.org, trademark your logo, you know, images and things like that. Make sure you protect your intellectual property, and just be kind to people, man, because I would say out of these 15 years, I've had moments where I may have performed with somebody for a very brief time, but that small interaction that went well came back years later, you know, on a gig or something that they were working on, and they thought about me, or they saw me on social media and they was like, hey, it was nice working with that person. I think I'm gonna give them another opportunity again in the future to work with them. So I would say be nice to everybody that you meet. 9 times out of 10, if they're on set, this is something that they want to do. You know, like even people who are not in front of the camera, you know what I'm saying? The crew, the craft services people, you never know who somebody knows. So I would just say be kind to everybody that you meet, and be somebody that someone will want to spend a certain amount of time around. Like, say you were filming a big movie for 3 to 6 months. Like, is somebody going to enjoy your company for that long? You know, or are you going to be a burden? You know, so those are good things to think about. And the last thing I would say, advice wise, is make sure you look like your headshot.
You know,
Yes, like your headshot is your calling card.
It's like dating.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, definitely. I'm about to say, like,
no catfishing, like production teams.
Don't catfish the production team. They are bringing you in for the audition because you sent them a photo saying this is what I look like now. You know, so yeah, always look like your headshot.
Oh, that's funny. You know, and that brings us to our next subject, really, because from the people that I've known in Hollywood and whatnot, being on movies and doing the really big, long periods of time, you're stuck with that same group for a while. And it can oftentimes be interesting when people tend to start having sex with one another.
Yes, we call those showmances instead of romances.
Showmances, yes. So how does that all work, navigating being in such proximity, trying to keep things professional on set while things offset might be kind of like who's sleeping with who this week?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've been a part of casts where cast members have hooked up, and I would say just keep it professional in a professional space, because you know, not everybody could be there for that. So I'm like, save that for you and your significant other's sexy time, you know, where it doesn't have to necessarily be a PDA thing that makes people uncomfortable. but then also doesn't take away from the art that y'all are trying to create. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a time and a place for everything. Everybody likes touch. It's one of our important senses, you know. But just don't have your love be so passionate that it takes away from the project that we came to create, you know, because it's a lot of people are sacrificing a lot, like spending time away from their families, uh money, time, you know, and you just want to make sure in terms of project management that you're working with people who can uh handle both. You know, it's like you can't control who you're attracted to, but your job is to be mature enough to handle that in a professional space.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's just like behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors, man. Behind closed doors. That's what I would say. Yeah. I was about to say,
Everyone
unless it's a love scene in a movie, but then you have an intimacy coordinator. So there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard that that can be really difficult for people too, because I mean, you have all the different production crew around, and people are at varying levels of being disrobed and have to be fully present with the person that's in front of them to make it seem real for the camera. So I feel like that's like a whole nother level.
Fun fact for you: I was naked on Westworld uh on HBO. So my first experience, they were fantastic when it came to the nudity on that show. There was, you know, like a full production team and makeup trailer, you know, where they covered us in skin matching makeup, you know what I'm saying, from head to toe. But when it came down to actually filming the scene, the only people who were allowed on set was the director, one PA, and the camera person. And everybody else had to clear out. We had our robes on until the room cleared out. Then everybody took their robes off. We gave those robes to that one PA, and it was the director, it was the camera person, action to cut. PA gives us the robes back on, then the crew was allowed back on. So for me, that made me a lot more comfortable in that space, you know, even though
Yeah,
it wasn't
definitely.
like a physical scene, you know, but I was like, those are great ways to make people comfortable with nudity.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because it can be varying levels of how many people are in the room, depending on the shot, the lighting, the sound, like all the different factors that you need to pull into filming. So I really appreciate you sharing that story
Mhm.
vulnerably about that experience. And
You're welcome.
yeah, I mean, like, and what's that like when you have family? You're just like, don't watch this scene. I'm naked. They,
Man, that is something that I do not have the answer for. I'm just like, I am a sexual person. I'm a sexual being. I know that I would not be here if it was not for sex, but I'm just like, I don't know if I would be okay like at a movie premiere or something like that if I'm sitting next to my siblings or my uncles and aunties and they watching my naked body up on screen perform the act of sex. So that is something that I am working to push past in my 30s and create more nude content, but also just try and find a way to just let my family discover it on their own. If they, because I'm just like, in terms of realistic art, I'm just like, I know that nobody is clothed 24 hours a day. So like if there's a scene of my character going from the shower to his bedroom, but he's a single man and the house, after he drives off, sometimes you might walk around comfortably in your house, you know. So just to have
yeah,
those pockets of realism in my art, I'm just like,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's my body,
Um,
so rhythm comes in.
no, I definitely I get it. And you know, it's interesting too, because like when you are like, have you been in the situation where you have had a monogamous or like a relationship that you're in, monogamous or otherwise, and then you have a scene where you're being physical with another person, like kissing them, having sex, like whatever. And how do you navigate that?
I'm sorry, the connection went out a little bit.
I'll say it again. Yeah, it's getting a little bit faded there. So when filming, have you been in a situation where you've been in a relationship with someone while filming and had to kiss or have sex or whatever with somebody else that was not your normal partner?
Yeah. I'm polyamorous. So I haven't dated in that way yet. That's a goal of mine. I'm, still doing research to learn more about it, so monogamy, yes, I've had many experiences where I was dating someone at the time and I had to have a scene partner who was my romantic lead, and I got teased about it every day. I got teased about it when I got the gig. I got teased about it when I had to rehearse and run lines with them. I got teased about it when I was just like, "Hey, babe, today is the day," and they're like, "Oh, you gonna really enjoy kissing on this co-star? Oh, she's so pretty. Oh, I guess I should just be single now because I know you're gonna come home with her." Like all these types of, jokes and things like that. I normally will communicate that to anybody that I am romantically involved with, that this is just a part of my job. This is a part of the industry that I'm in. And they're like, "Oh, how can I believe you, Kyle? Did you like it? Did you like being with that girl?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "You such a good actor. You a liar. How can I?
Why do you even ask those questions?
You?"
Like that just seems like such a dumb question to ask.
These are the questions that we are asked by the people that we love, and our job is to reassure them, like, "No, baby, you're beautiful. I don't want no other woman but you. This is the only one that I want is you. I ain't looking at that girl and all of her, reasons that she got cast. Like." So it's a case by case basis, but I've had those experiences.
It's so funny. Yeah, I have a lot of compassion for people in the industry having to navigate those kinds of relationships and just having everything on public display with social media these days. Like, there's not a lot of privacy happening for famous people.
Very true, man. And that's the part that I'm like, I'm like, the internet has, and paparazzi and all this other stuff has sort of gotten addicted to the private lives of their favorite artists, because they love their art so much that they want to get to know these people more behind the scenes. And the problem with that is a lot of these people are private because it forces them to be seen. They have to advertise and market the film and stuff like that. Like, you already have to have a certain level of visibility for these projects. You dedicated probably like a year to this gig. So you like, I just want some me time for me. Next thing you know, a picture of your private life pops up. And the way that I kind of look at it in order to be okay with it is it goes back into controlling your own narrative, because you love these people because you were introduced to them either through the newspaper or through the television or the radio. Like, this was the medium that introduced you to the most influential artist or person in your life. So you automatically trust this source of information because he introduced you to somebody you didn't even know existed. So when this same medium gives you information about this person that they introduced you to that may not be true or not, you're forced to kind of believe it because you wouldn't even know this person existed if this medium wasn't there. So it's not like you can call this person and be like, "Hey, is this really happening?"
You're like, "I'm not so sure. Let me call my buddy."
Yeah, and another problem with that is photos. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you and I were hanging out and we had a photo of us in public or something like that, there is no way to prove what type of conversation we had when that photo was taken. So sometimes hanging out around industry people or popular people, and if you have a photo with that person and then you go and you tell somebody a story about that interaction that wasn't true, and that person has never met this prominent public figure, they're automatically going to believe it because you have visual proof that you met them at some point in reality. You're shaking hands, whether they were on their way to a taxi and was just like, oh, sure. And then got in the taxi. You like, man, oh my gosh, I gave him, he was like, you hungry? You want a sandwich? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, yo, we went down. He bought me a sandwich. This was the greatest day of my life. He was such a nice guy. Like,
and then the person's like,
he's like, for real? So-and-so bought you a sandwich? Man, oh my gosh, y'all the best friends. And like, that part is a little hard to control and navigate the industry because the medium of it, like with all these different photographers and stuff like that, can spin a story any way that they want. So it kind of forces you to remain visual in terms of your audience to say what's true and what's not, and let them really know the integrity behind the person that you are, No,
that totally makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, so much stuff. So some people out there, I'm just like, which direction is getting late, folks? I know. I had something and then it like flew out of my brain. That ever happened to you?
Yes.
You're like, yeah, sometimes. That's why blooper reels are a thing. So navigating polyamory, like not everybody knows what that is. Can you just take a brief moment and talk to us about what your experience is with that? Oh, now I remember. It just came back to me. So balancing masculine and feminine energy within a public sphere. How do you navigate that as well?
Through comedy,
you're like, yeah.
I'm a big little brother is what I like to call it. You know what I'm saying? I'm tall, but my brother is taller than me, so like he is probably teased me on every aspect of my existence, and in that childhood training has made my skin tough where I can flip words and poke jabs, like, but it's all light, you know what I'm saying, like comedically. So when he found out that I didn't want to be an athlete and wanted to be an artist, he made jokes about my masculinity, and he just was saying how that's a feminine thing to want to do Shakespeare because he's picturing tights, but he's not picturing like a modern version of whatever the Shakespeare play is. He just goes right to the root that he can make fun of, So when it comes to masculinity and balancing feminine energies with art, you just kind of let people say what they say, form their own opinion. Like an example, the security guards who work for the Queen of England, they don't say anything. They get made fun of. You know what I'm saying? So people are going to make fun of you whether you say something or not. They stand there all day and they stand guard, and people pay money to go over there and try and make these people laugh, take pictures with them and do goofy faces, and they just doing their job. So people are always going to try and have an opinion about things that you do or say, the way you dress or look or sound, whether it's masculine, whether it's feminine. And if you being your authentic self, it shouldn't matter what people say,
True that. For sure. Yeah, which brings us into like polyamory is still coming into its own within society. There are still plenty of people that think it's a terrible idea. And just like there's plenty of people that think monogamy is like a ridiculous idea. How archaic. You want to just be with one person? That's so ridiculous. And it's an interesting journey, I think, as people can explore like what does that look like and what's your why behind wanting to do polyamory, like be part of that experience.
So briefly, polyamory is just, it means many loves, many lovers, so I feel like nobody that I know just loves one person. Like if you take the sex out of it, we already love so many people, like in our circle of family, friends, co-workers, wherever. And when we're dating, that's sort of early stages of polyamory right there, because I don't know how your dating experiences is, but I've had to date a few people in order to find the right person, so that's sort of like an experience right there. It's like, I'm gonna go on a date with this person, we're gonna hang out Monday, I'll hang out with somebody else on Wednesday, I'll hang out with somebody else on Friday, and you let those experiences sort of organically grow and those relationships grow. And if Monday and Friday were the best, and Wednesday just happened to be somebody that you probably didn't want to see again, Monday and Friday are still options in the world of polyamory and getting to know others. And if they get along, then all three of you can hang out. So I don't necessarily think monogamy works just because though I don't know, I'm about to say, like, everybody is different, but I'm just saying it leads to a lot of pressure, feeling like you have to be everything for one person, and it already, like, just going through life, you just need help in so many different ways from so many different people. But it's just like, how are you going to be the person giving me advice on argument if I'm the reason that you mad? You know what I'm saying? Like, how you gonna talk to me? Well, I mean, you should be able to have healthy conversation and work through tough things, but sometimes people want to vent to other people. And I'm like, having that third person who is an objective person is just like, yeah, man, you did eat all the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like, you probably should go grocery shopping, like,
the first thing that comes to mind is like, I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's like,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting sort of experience for people. I am lucky that I have known quite a few people who have successfully managed a monogamous marriage and relationship. So I know it's possible. I know it's possible, even if they do tend to be the minority these days.
Yeah, but it's possible, but is also a lot of work. I'm not saying that multiple people is less work, but my reasons.
Me too. Just a different kind of work. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's like 3 people's baggage, 4 people's baggage. Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, but it's good, because in the poly couples and conferences and resorts that I've been to, and speaking to people who have had children in this way and have partnered with multiple people over the course of their lives, I love the over communication that goes into polyamory. I've experienced a lot of monogamous friendships and relationships that have been very separate in terms of the secrets and the desires that they really have. They close their partner out from that, and then that leads to infidelity, because they go searching for it because they didn't trust that information with their partner. They didn't think that they could bring their full selves to this relationship because they may have met them in high school, the high school sweetheart, and they don't want to change over time. Or it's just like, hey, a lot of people have hard boundaries about, like, yo, if you're going to date me, it has to be this way. And they're not going to change, So it's like, yeah.
Is that why you have started thinking about getting certified in sex therapy?
Yes. So I wanted to get certified in sexual education therapy, so that way I can learn more about myself as a sexual individual. When it comes to me having children and being able to find the right age to explain sex to them, instead of them discovering it through pornography, which is an incorrect version of what sex really means and what it's about and how to use your energy. I just want to know all of the terms, like professionally, medically, how I can express their, explain to them their anatomy, what their body is really here for, and how they partner with the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever my children are into in the future. I just need that education for myself in order to teach, And with polyamory, I feel 3 incomes are better than 2. You can build a little faster in terms of the short-term goals that you may have in life. And, that village can help you achieve those things and travel. You will always have a babysitter, it's like two people are going to take a trip. One person is at home, it all depends. But I'm like, my partner could have another man or a woman if they choose. We just have that conversation, but I'm a sharer, and
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate that. It's such like I too have started on my journey of becoming a sex coaching consultant on top of being a men's mindset coach and empowerment coach with horses and without horses and all that different stuff. But yes, so that brings us to our last question of the evening, which is, who inspires you in the world today?
Who inspires me in the world today? Might be a controversial answer, but it's the boy Ye, Kanye West, I would say. If you all haven't seen his documentary Genius on Netflix, it's like a 3-parter right now. But Kanye West is a very influential person to me, because I see a lot of myself in him in terms of the way he believes in himself. The confidence that he has is undeniable, and he has the art to back it up, and sometimes artists can be looked at as narcissistic or arrogant, if they believe in themselves, because as a society, people are just told to live a certain way. The people are force fed their childhood to retirement in a box, and a lot of people in these newer generations are jumping outside of that box, and I feel like Kanye West encouraged me to jump out of that box creatively with my art. If I'm going into a room and my body is my instrument, my vocal cords are the same as these piano chords that I'm about to play for you, and I have to sell myself to you. If I don't believe in myself, you're not gonna believe in me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have to believe in myself more than anything. And I really enjoy Kanye's belief in the art that he creates.
Oh, that's awesome. I love all of those messages. So Kyle, where can people find you these days if they want to hire you for commercials or TV or film or anything else?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at I Eat Scripts, like movie scripts, I_eat_scripts. On Facebook at Kyle Carthens, Kyle. Last name is Carthens. On Twitter at Kyle Carthens, and I am working on a website. So those are those are my first 3.
What about your IMDb?
You can also find me on IMDb at Kyle Carthens. I'm on IMDb. And if you wanted to email me, you could email me at kcarthens@yahoo.com or purplebrickproductions@gmail.com, which is my production company.
We can't leave that one out.
Right? Oh,
and if you one.
Right. And if you are in the Boise, Idaho area, I'm currently in a production at the Alley Repertory Theater. We're doing a show called The Royale by Marco Ramirez. It's loosely based on Jack Johnson. The character's name is Jay Jackson, in the show, and it runs March 11th, 2022 to March 20th of 2022. So all the shows are at 8 p.m. And yeah, look that up if you are in Boise for the month.
Go see it, folks. Go to Boise. Go see our friend Kyle. See him perform.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much for candidly sharing your life experience, your wisdom, and the wonderful projects that you have going on with your mission.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time and this interview and bringing awareness, especially during Black History Month. I think what you're doing is great, Elysia.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And for anybody else watching the show, I hope that you've enjoyed the show this evening. And if you're interested in being on the show or hiring me for anything out there, from coaching to workshops to just fun sort of podcasts and different shows, please do come see me at www.globalequineaffiliates.com, on Facebook at Elysia Jane Buss, or on Instagram at Elysia Buss, ELYSIABUSS. So until next time, we'll see y'all later. Bye.